All right, everybody, we are back with our fourth installment of the Fantasy Wolf Showdown. We are happy to welcome Derek Brown from Fantasy Football 24/7 to the podcast. How you doing, Derek?
What is going on, guys? Y'all ready for some football?
Yeah, Absolutely. We're ready for some football. It's August, man. I mean, this is like what are we like a month away?
Yeah, I mean we tomorrow is Thursday. There's kickoff. We got the Hall of Fame game coming, so you get to watch every scrub fourth or fifth player play. I mean, y'all not hyped up about that?
No,
Absolutely.
I'm hyped up about it. I've always found the concept of the Hall of Fame game to be hilarious because it's like it's the Hall of Fame game played by people who will certainly never be welcome on the grounds of the Hall of Fame as actual players. It's like, it's the Hall of Fame game played between middle school players or something like that. It seems like kind of a contradiction. But yes, I am excited. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't.
I can't wait to see Jerome Brown be a target monster tomorrow. It's going to be sick.
Oh, he's going to be like a vacuum cleaner out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy to me that I can watch like 7-string football over 2 minutes of baseball. I'll watch the entire Hall of Fame game and I won't even be able to make it through like an inning of baseball. It just bores me to tears. So I can't wait. I'm so excited the gridiron's back.
Nothing's worse than golf. Televised golf.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, nobody on this podcast is going to argue with you on that.
Thank God.
Yeah, I literally would rather bet on if a fly is going to go in or out of a window in the next 5 minutes than watch golf on TV, which I've done before. Anyway, with that said, Wolf, you want to get into the first question? We'll get this thing rolling.
Sure thing. So, Derek, just kind of give us a quick introduction. Who are you and why should our listeners trust you?
So I'm actually brand new to the fantasy game. I've been writing for, probably about 2-3 months. And I'm really kind of in my baby stage, man. But the reason that people should trust me is I write for 2 different very good sites. And I'm a slave to the numbers. And one of the things that I really try to dissect with numbers is that all the recency bias and all of the hype and all of the crap that you hear, especially this time of year, man. I mean, right now, it might be preseason, but it's really beat season. It's beat writer season right now, man. So I really hope people will trust my takes and stuff because I never want to steer anybody wrong for any kind of reason and want people to take home titles this year.
Well,
Absolutely.
You're definitely going to steer some people wrong, in the course of a season. Don't feel bad about that. Well, hope that you steer more right than you steer wrong. The wolf for all the shit I give him for being high on Blake Bortles last year, he did call David Johnson number 1, so he gets more props for that. Don't worry, you'll be fine. You're going to have a whole podcast to convince everyone why they should listen to you.
Well, that's kind of like, it's kind of like almost like the dad bod rule. If your chest sticks out farther than your stomach, you're doing okay. So you just put that on fantasy football and you're doing fine as an analyst.
There you go. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Hypothetical that I like to run by everybody real quick. What's your favorite or what's your least favorite football team? Or if you want to get even more kind of nuanced, what's your least favorite player in the league? If you got one you just can't stand.
My least favorite football team is a tie. And part of this is because I'm from Louisiana. I will bleed black and gold to the day I die. I cannot stand the Falcons. And the Panthers are a close second. The football player that I don't even want to say his name. It's almost like thinking of Baltimore right now. Like
no. You got to. We'll bleep it out. No, I'm just kidding. We won't.
God, thank God he doesn't play right now. Roddy White. I can't stand him as a player, as a I don't like the guy.
Well, this is gonna work great. This is gonna work great. So here's the deal. Here's option number 1 for your hypothetical. Option number 1 is you're gonna get up tomorrow morning. You're gonna hold a minor press conference. You're gonna go on your podcast. For the sites that you write for, you're gonna write legitimate, serious, gushing articles. About how basically you've been misled your whole life. You don't like the Saints anymore. you're a Panthers and Falcons fan for the rest of your life. Like, you're gonna bleed Carolina blue, you're gonna bleed Atlanta black, red, whatever the hell they're wearing these days. And furthermore, and on top of that, and you have to, this is all in like for the rest of your life. This isn't just like one press conference stunt. This is like, you're a fan for the rest of your life. And on top of that, you're also gonna get out there and say that you think that Roddy White is the best football player of all time, and that you think pretty much everyone else that plays wide receiver after him is just kind of a pretender. And this is how your life's going to be until you die. So that's option number one. Option number two is you're going to go across the middle for like kind of a post route, and a quarterback is going to throw you a lazy pass across the middle, which you're going to go up and try to catch wearing nothing for protection except regular clothes and like a 1930s leather helmet with like no face mask. And Ray Lewis in his prime is going to come across the middle and plow you one time. As hard as he can. You pissed him off. Like, you said something to him like earlier in the day, and he was like, I'm going to take that motherfucker's head off. That's what your options are.
So kind of like I mocked his end zone dance, right?
No,
okay.
Totally. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Except that, I did the mid-30s, dad dance.
This is prime Ray Lewis. I mean,
Gotcha.
I'd be terrified of 2017 Ray Lewis, but this is like 2002 Ray Lewis.
I'd be crazy if I said it's not even close. When you're going through the entire scenario of the Falcons and the Panthers, it was the equivalent of somebody just kicking me straight in the junk like 15 times.
Oh, we used to do a hypothetical about that too. So
I would take that over being a Falcons and Panthers fan. Hold on, I just gotta hold it in for a second. You can line up Ray Lewis. You could put Brian Urlacher. You could put, just name them. They could just line up in succession
Lawrence
and
Taylor.
just take me out. I will sit there on my knees with like some junior high football pads on and a mini helmet duct taped to my head.
Rather than the Falcons Roddy White thing. You're not only taking the hit, you're willing to summon 5 or 10 other Hall of Famers to then just continue to hit your corpse that would just be lying on the ground.
Oh yeah.
By the fourth hit, it would just be like a big slab of meat, like the one that Rocky punches in the movie. You know what I mean?
Put them all up there. I will be the practice dummy for an entire practice of Hall of Fame linebackers. Instead of that, there's no part of me that can. Oh my God,
Derek, I respect your answer. I really do. I really do.
That's the most like one-sided answer we've had, just like clearly definitive one way or the other.
Well, we've had. It's probably been about half and half. Like, probably about half the people have been like, I'll take the hit. You're the first guy that's like, bring in other guys that could kill me as well, and let them take a couple shots.
Maybe it's my Southern pride, man. I have no clue, but there is nothing about me that is willing to just succumb to doing that. It's worse than, it's sports blasphemy. And how can you get any worse? That's like asking a Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan to get the symbol tattooed on their chest.
No,
they would rather just be like skinned alive, man.
It's just like the prototype of, would you rather be in horrible physical pain or horrible emotional pain for the rest of your life? And you've answered it definitively, and I appreciate it. And now I'm going to give our resident Wolf the opportunity to ask you some real fantasy questions. So go ahead, Wolf.
Alrighty, so we call this segment the Wolf's Den. This is part 2 of the interview, and we always like to start. The reason we call it the Wolf is because you're a bolder guy. You sent me your rankings. You're not afraid to go against the grain, similar to me. And I like to pick out the 3 that I really agree with, that were both kind of different from the expert consensus, and we can kind of just both talk about why we think that. And then I'm going to pick out the 3 that we disagree on, that you're bold about, and I'm bold in the opposite direction. And we'll talk about those things. All righty?
Sounds good.
All righty. So the first that I saw, you sent me your receiver rankings, and I absolutely love you're high on this guy because I'm all in too, is Martavis Bryant of the Steelers. What do you love so much about him?
The guy is a medical, just like an absolute marvel. The guy, if you were to take him and line him up against any top receiver in the last like 5 to 10 years, Calvin Johnson, Josh Gordon, all these guys that just like look like they just come out of some type of lab, Martavis Bryant is going to be that dude. I mean, I think the thing that gets lost about him is that for suspension reasons, I mean, whether it's part-time player and stuff, he has not had the same type of exposure or target volume or just full seasons yet. I mean, the guy's yet to play an actual full season, but he's 10th in fantasy points a game amongst wide receivers for the last 2 years. So basically, you're saying he's a wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per game. So why would anybody not want to get behind this guy? I don't really understand it. Like, plus, like, people always throw out the stat, and I've heard it a million times, totally different position, but Tyler Eifert has scored 18 touchdowns in the last 21 games. I mean, it's a very tired stat. Martavis Bryant in 21 career games has scored 14 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. If you take his per game averages, like over when he's actually been on the field and healthy, his 16 game, like full season stat line would read 58 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And that's wide receiver 1 numbers, man. And I don't understand why nobody else gets that.
I'm absolutely with you, man. I see the experts have him at 73 right now overall. ADP's right around, 60, which is a joke. I have him up, and you're even a little bit higher than me, and I'm very high. I have him like right around 35 overall, wide receiver 20. So I'm right there with you. When you call him a physical freak, I mean, the only guy that I see that he's kind of even close to past is Randy Moss, the way he's so tall and long and just deceptively fast. The guy can outrun an entire defense and beat you deep. He's great off the screen game because people just take horrible pursuit angles. They don't recognize how fast this guy is down the field. And he's being treated like he's a dart throw wide receiver 3. Yeah, I get the risk. He's not even reinstated right now. But when you can get this guy in round 6, and like you said, a potential wide receiver 1, the price range is just way too cheap. I'm 100% with you. A complete physical freak. Also, just starting to work out for the first time in his life. Said he added 15 pounds of muscle, and everybody's raving about that. So, I mean, I can't wait to see what this guy's made of and when he's actually gets a full season together. I'm with you. Easily could be wide receiver 1, if not like very high-end wide receiver 2 numbers for a low-end wide receiver 3 price. I mean, that's the type of things fantasy owners need to capitalize on.
And, I mean, just to illustrate both of you guys' point, the Wolf did a mock draft earlier and got Martavis Bryant in the 6th round, which God, is picking 10th. Yeah, so, I mean, that illustrates the point both of you guys are making. You want to move on to Allen Robinson, who is the opposite? Both of you guys are down.
We're definitely both down on him. So, yeah, what do you not like about Allen?
I like Allen as far as talent-wise, but the problem with Allen is he's not efficient with his targets. It's not from a talent perspective. And the thing that everybody wants to say, well, it was Blake Bortles, and he's Bortling it up. He's terrible. And, yes, he is a horrible quarterback. But horrible quarterbacks can still support good wide receivers. And for a guy that was 9th in targets and 11th in red zone targets last season, the problem is Allen Robinson can't catch the damn ball. He was 97th in catch rate, and he was number 36 in drop rate. And those are the two things that are independent of Bortles. Like, regardless, like it doesn't come down to, he overthrew him, or yes, I guess he was targeted because he was within a 5-yard radius of Bortles, punt. Like that is independent of bad quarterback play. That is, he threw it at you and you dropped the damn ball. Mm-hmm. And I mean, put it this way, his stat line last year, 73 for 883 yards and 6 touchdowns. If anybody would take that, and you would say, hey, would you draft this guy this year as a top 15 receiver with that stat line? Take the name away. All the name game gone. Would anybody say, I want that guy. That guy's got to be on my team. I'm taking him in the first 3 rounds of the draft? Hell no. Nobody's going to take that guy at that point. He's number, what is he, 30 for me right now. And for definite reason. And I put DeAndre Hopkins in the same category as him. It's not talent. It's the entirety of it.
I would not take Robinson even as high as 30 for whatever it's worth, but I don't put him in the Hopkins
I think
category.
you said you put him. You mean your wide receiver 30, right? Not 30 overall.
Oh, no. He's wide receiver 30 for me.
No, I know what he meant. I wouldn't put him at wide. I'd put him below wide receiver 30 is what I'm saying. Yeah, I hate him.
So he's going 31 overall right now, which is insane. And the experts rank 29 overall, which is crazy. And I'm with you. And I think a part of it, too, is the coverage. Once people finally figured out, 2015, he had 14 TDs and whatnot. But once people figured him out and knew to put the top corners on him and double him. So Scott Barrett came out with this great stat. We've put this one on the pod before. But on 60 career targets against top 20 graded cornerbacks, Allen Robinson's caught only 20 of those targets for 193 yards and only one touchdown. Among all 116 receivers to see at least 40 of such targets, Allen Robinson's .76 PPR per target average ranks second worst out of, again, 116 receivers. He's second worst against top 20 coverage. So he's exposed,
He's kind of like the Dez Bryant light. Like if you have a really, really awesome cornerback that's up against him, he goes and he craps the bed.
Yeah, exactly. So it is very.
Just so you guys know, that was not an added sound effect from our sound guy. That was legit happening live in the studio right now.
I dropped.
You just probably saved us like $50 in like editing, like money.
I got more where that's from, man. I mean, I got all kinds of crazy shit.
We got you for another 15-20 minutes, so but we're expecting at least one
Sounds
more.
Good.
Of those.
Absolutely. And the other part too is last year, like you mentioned, he had 9th in the league in targets. I think those targets are bound to drop this year too, with Doug Marrone saying the ideal world he's only going to pass the ball exactly 0 times if he can and get that chance, which I don't blame him when you got Blake Bortles as your quarterback again. So with Leonard Fournette now in tow, with a run-heavy scheme coming in place, the targets are going to go down. He's not efficient with the targets he gets. I think Allen Robinson, I'm with you there, is one of the most overrated corners. Receivers. One of the only guys, though, that's completely undervalued that we really agree on is Danny Woodhead. What do you love about Danny Woodhead this year?
If I were to tell you a guy that has been healthy, the 2 last seasons he's been healthy, he's been a top 20 running back. Would anybody say Danny Woodhead? Not unless you're a huge numbers guy. Danny Woodhead, his last 2 healthy seasons where he played 16 games, and then some people say, oh, that's a big if. But the guy is already at full steam right now, and we're not even into the preseason. In 2015, he was number 11. In 2013, he was number 19. And it was not based off of, he got 1,000 yards or he didn't get 1,000 yards on either side of the ball. And so Danny Woodhead stepped into the perfect scenario for him as a fantasy player in real life, man. I mean, you put him in Baltimore's offense, and Flacco targeted the running back position 157 times last year. You take his career catch rate and you extrapolate that out. Say he gets, nothing crazy. I'm not going to say he gets he gets the whole 157 targets for running backs, but say he gets 70% of that. So at his catch rate for his entire career, that puts him at 80 receptions, which some people are like, oh, that's a lot of receptions. I mean, why would you put him at 80 receptions? He's already caught 80 balls once in his career, so it's not something that the man can't do or he hasn't done before. So a guy that has shown that he could be a top 20 running back, and he doesn't have to run the ball a ton. He just catches the damn ball a ton, and he will score at least 6 to 9 touchdowns this year probably, because he's done it twice in his career. He scored 8 touchdowns one year and 9 the other. At his ADP, he's a steal to me, man.
Absolutely. No, I'm fully with you. And I think another piece of evidence to help back that up, that he could totally get to 80 receptions, is the Ravens actually averaged 7.3 catches per game at the running back position last year, which was second most in the NFL, only behind the Saints. So they caught a ton of balls last year. Just like you said, they targeted the running back all the time. So I'm 100% with you there. He's going to rack up. I'd say 80 catches is definitely, maybe even a low ball. If he gets 16 games in him, I could totally see him approaching 90. He's going to catch a ton of balls. You remember Ray Rice back in the day. He used to hover right around 80, 90 catches. He won't get the rushing output of Ray Rice. But like you mentioned, too, a great red zone threat Danny Woodhead is. Scores, he could get a ton of that work because Terrence Russ is certainly just a plotter. I'm with you there. I think Danny Woodhead, he's going in, round 8, 9, 10 sometimes. A very clear RB2 that you can get for a flex or even lower price. So I'm 100% with you there. But we got to stop.
Yeah, we got to get to the showdown. This is a lot of agreeing that's been going on here, but I see some juicy matchups in the showdown. Now, you've already shown a little bit of your hand going in because you told us how much you hate the Falcons, and the first guy that has drawn your ire and that you're going to disagree with the Wolf on is Matt Ryan, and you don't like him much, do you?
All right, so here's the deal. First, I'm going to lead off with this. I'm going to ask you, where do you have him at, Wolf? What is he? What number quarterback is he for you?
Oh, so I know you have him at 13, and I have him all the way up at quarterback 4. So I love me some Matty Ice. I owned him last year, so maybe I have a little bias after what a great year he had. But I'm very high on Matt Ryan, and I'd love to hear why I shouldn't be.
Oh, man, I think Matty's got the blinders on you, man. This is a guy who's thrown for 30 touchdowns in his entire career twice. Once was 2012, once was last year. And so that's why I was talking about the trust, the recency bias. Like, I don't dislike Matt Ryan as a possible QB1. I have him at 13 because I think that I really believe that he's going to regress a lot. He's going to regress a lot because of Shanahan being gone. And I know that they've talked a lot about the same offense and things are not going to change. And he's got the same weapons coming back. And from an efficiency standpoint, that offense was historic last year. I mean, they went to a Super Bowl. They were lighting it up at just a crazy rate. So even if that efficiency comes down at all, yes, he's going to put up the yards because he's always put up the yards. I mean, the guy has thrown for 4,000 yards in each of the last, I believe, like 6 or 7 seasons. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But he's only thrown for 30 touchdowns, and that's what pushed him over into that high-end elite part. Like, he got 38 touchdowns last season. That's almost 40. And the guy's never sniffed close to that. So I think like he regresses back to the mean a little bit, and he goes back in that high 20s. I mean, even if he gets 30 on the dot, he's not going to pay off at the ADP that people are going to take him at. Most places have him as a top 5, top 6 quarterback. You have him at 4. I just think like there are so many guys that have so much more upside, and the quarterback position is just so wrought with value that I'm not willing to reach for Matt Ryan, much less pay the price that a top 5 quarterback is going to cost you for that.
Yeah, so I do agree with you in a certain sense in terms of I'm probably not going to draft Matt Ryan because I'm with you. Mm-hmm. I don't ever reach on quarterbacks. I always wait on it. I think there's always juicy options still there in rounds 11, 10, I always wait on quarterbacks. So I'm with you there. I'm not going to probably own Matt Ryan. So I know I'm going to bat for a guy right now that ultimately isn't going to be on my team. What I'm arguing here is that he should not be down at QB 13 below Eli Manning, below Matt Stafford, below some of the guys you have him, because I think he's getting punished right now by a lot of people. Everyone keeps saying regression. Yeah, you know what? He probably won't have 38 TDs again. In fact, I'm with you there. He won't. But at the end of the day, I don't think we need to punish a guy for his past when he didn't have the weapons he had last year, when he didn't have especially the fact of the offensive line with Alex Mack, and they really sturdied that up, and he had by far the most time of his career last year to really drop back and exploit these awesome new weapons of Taylor Gabriel, of Mohamed Sanu. And yes, I agree. Kyle Shanahan was a huge loss. I think that's going to definitely play a fact in him in going backwards from 38 TDs. I still see him throwing 30 to 35, another 4,500 yards. I just see a guy that everything's in place that was there last year other than the coordinator. But Steve Sarkisian's already said, I'm going to keep it aggressive, even more so in terms of targeting Julio in the red zone, and then all those weapons are there. I feel like instead of looking back into all these years where he didn't have the cast he has now, when he's playing behind a much worse offensive line and was getting sacked all the time, I think we got to look and see he's got the same awesome line that kept him upright last year. He's got the same weapons that he was able to exploit for the deep ball. He's a smart decision maker, only threw 7 interceptions last year. So I see a guy with a very high floor in a situation with everything in place to keep that floor and a pretty high ceiling. And then compared to some of the guys you have him below, where the floor is just a lot lower, maybe the ceiling could be somewhat higher. I don't know. I don't see many. This is the reigning MVP and one of the best QBs of all last year. I don't think he has a very low ceiling, and I think his floor is a lot higher than some of the guys you have below him. So
Derek,
I'm a big Matty Ice fan.
Derek,
sure.
you got 1 minute. Tell me why Matt Stafford should be higher than Matt Ryan.
All right. Matt Stafford, up until he injured his thumb last year, was the number 9 quarterback, just on the point. Matt Ryan last year, to point to his efficiency, he has been above 600 pass attempts for each of the last 5 seasons. Last year, he dropped below that. He lost 80 pass attempts. So if the defense improves for the Falcons and they go more run heavy and decrease in the pass even more than they did last year, then Matt Ryan drops off below Stafford because Stafford's not going to lose the volume.
All right, but you did that in 30 seconds. That was solid. All right, second guy you guys disagree on, Ty Montgomery. Why don't you tell me your thoughts on Ty Montgomery, Derek?
I do want to preface this one, too, is I'm becoming a lot higher on him recently. I've read a lot of stuff I love. He's moved up my ranks a bit, but I don't know if I'm 100% all in yet, and I know you've been all in for a while, so I want to give you a chance to say, why have you loved Montgomery for as long as you have?
So you talk about bias, man. Ty Montgomery is probably he's probably my biggest man crush for this season. He's a guy that is an RB1 to me that you can get in the 3rd or 4th round right now. And even if he goes, he's not going to touch above probably the 3rd round in drafts. And I have him, yeah, you're right. I have him a little bit higher than probably almost everybody except for maybe a few. I have him at number 10 for me. And Ty Montgomery, everybody points to he's a wide receiver and he went to being a running back. And a lot of people preface him as like this frail little guy and that Jamal Williams is this grinder and he's going to come in and he's going to take the 1st and 2nd downs. And does anybody look at like actual like height and weight or metrics or anything? This guy is actually bigger than Jamal Williams, the 1st and 2nd down grinder. This is a guy that ranked – he was number 1 in Pro Football Focus's elusive rating last season. He was top 5 in yards after contact. The guy, when he was given the ball, he was an absolute stud. And I don't understand like why people don't they want to poke holes in the fact that he went from being wide receiver to running back and say, well, you know, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. This guy switched positions in the middle of the year. He had to learn blocking assignments. He had to learn an entirely new position at the highest competition level at the NFL. Playing for the Green Bay Packers, who went on a giant run for one of the best quarterbacks in the league, who you know damn well is going to have a high floor of what he expects out of the guy that's standing behind him that he's handing the ball off to. So for a guy that is that talented, that showed that, and he is huge. If y'all seen any kind of pictures of this guy lately, he is jacked. He spent the entire offseason lifting weights, working on his craft, becoming a running back out of a wide receiver, supposedly frail body. And before I turn it loose, one crazy stat. So after Ty Montgomery became a running back, so to speak, last year, running off of instincts from week 6 to 17 last year, he had 5 runs of 20+ yards on 77 carries. A guy who everybody says is a stud, and he is a stud in his own right, only had 2 runs of 20+ yards on 202 carries. Do y'all know who that is?
Let's hear it.
David Johnson. The number 1 running back in fantasy football had half the number of 20+ yard runs on 3 times as many carries as Ty Montgomery. So to say this guy is going to get the workload this year, he is going to be an absolute RB1.
Wolf?
I mean, that's a very tough argument to go against, and it's a lot of the reason why the new article I'm writing, I'm so high on him. I love that you brought up he was running on instincts, and now he's been really working on his footwork and all the nuances of the running back position. I'm fully with you there that he's bulked up. And Mike McCarthy, historically, 11 out of 17 seasons, has had true bona fide RB1s. My only concern, the reason I didn't have him when we first decided we're going to talk about Montgomery, I had him at RB22. I bumped him up to RB15 the more and more I've heard Mike McCarthy call him a full running back, a complete guy, a guy who's going to do some special things. The more and more I hear that McCarthy's going to commit to him, because McCarthy's kind of one of these guys, 11 out of 17 seasons, he had a true RB1 and ridden him to a true RB1 season. Mm-hmm. But the 6 seasons when he didn't have talent that he loved, he had very gross committees. Nobody was valuable. And when I saw them draft those 3 rookies at first, I was like, oh, he clearly doesn't like Montgomery if he's going to go out and take 3 rookies. But I guess everything he's done this offseason, he's really committed to becoming that running back. McCarthy's loved the results. The only thing I am worried about right now, and I need to see improve before I go all in like you are, is the pass protection. Apparently, he's still pretty lackluster in that in camp, and obviously keeping Aaron Rodgers upright is as good as Montgomery is. And Mike McCarthy called him probably the number 2 mismatch on their team after Aaron Rodgers that teams need to think of. So he clearly loves him too, but he's not going to stay on the field if he can't pass block. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. Obviously, he has time over camp to learn it and can pick that up. But if he doesn't, I could see that getting him benched, which would be very unfortunate because I think it is a very juicy opportunity. He'll see the lightest. I think it was like 80% of the time the box was unstacked for the Green Bay Packers, and he feasted for 6.6 yards a carry when it was set up that way. So, I mean, he's going to be set up for success as long as he can stay in that field. So I'm with you. I'm almost there. I just need to make sure he's a good pass protector.
So I'll add this little piece onto it because I was doing my last minute tidying up my homework right before. So McCarthy came out this afternoon, or maybe it was early today, and said that Ty Montgomery, and this is a quote, just needs reps in pass protection. Actually, he's really high in ability for pass protection. He's a stud now. So I got to win you over, Wolf. I mean, you got to come into the top 10 territory with me. I got to get you up some more.
You're getting me swayed, man. He's certainly going to be moving up the big board. I'm excited to see how high I actually put him on the new big board. I'm very intrigued. He's one of the most intriguing prospects of fantasy to me this year, for sure.
I'm also very high on Ty Montgomery. I got him in the 4th round of the RSJ mock draft, and I kind of felt like he was a steal. And I feel like even now it's an even better pick than it was when I made it. Let's go to the last guy, Tyrell Williams. This is somebody you guys differ on quite a bit. You like him a lot, Derek.
Oh, he's awesome, man. Yeah. He's my number 18 wide receiver, man. See, and I don't think I'm that high because he finished as the number, depending on what format you're in, the number 18th or 19th wide receiver last season. He's number 18 in PPR, so I feel like I'm just adding him back to where he was. I mean, I think he can replicate the season that he had before. The guy went over 1,000 yards. He had 7 touchdowns. And, I mean, he was tied. So this is one of the things that I feel like puts him in a different category. The guy was number 11 in a contested catch rate, so he made it the tough catches. He has a great set of hands. And the one thing, and I will never root for guys to get injured. I will never root for things like that. We're talking about Woodhead and stuff earlier. I do not root for Kenneth Dixon to go out for the year. Just the same thing as I do not root for Mike Williams to be out for the entire season with a back injury. I mean, it's tragic, man. But in that, it absolutely clears up Tyrell Williams' role. He's the number 2 wide receiver in that offense. He's going to replicate the numbers that he had last season. And he's a guy that you can get super late in drafts compared to – so Tyrell Williams was the number 18th wide receiver in PPR last year. But he gets none of the press. None of the press after going 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards and 7+ touchdowns last year. But the guy that finished right behind him, who I've said this before – who is, I mean, everybody just can't wait to draft, can't wait to get him on their team, is Terrell Pryor. So why is the guy that finished right behind Tyrell Williams, who is going to have to fight for targets with a few up-and-coming wide receivers and a quarterback who's never shown the propensity to target anybody more than maybe Jordan Reed a little bit more. why are people more high on Terrell Pryor than they are not on Tyrell Williams when they are both absolute freaks? They are great on the field. The guys are studs.
Well,
I think your stats were great, and I have some other ones that make Williams sound great as well. Tops in the NFL for catches of 40 plus yards, top 5 in catches of 25 plus yards. 6'4", 205, a monster. He's a great receiver. There was one thing that wasn't there last year that is coming back this year, and it has me very concerned for the amount of targets Tyrell Williams is going to see, and that's Keenan Allen. Of course, Keenan Allen is a huge risk to miss time, and probably will, to be honest, but we can't pretend like Tyrell Williams is going to, again, be the number one target once Keenan Allen is back. I also think Hunter Henry, I'm a huge Hunter Henry guy. I think he's going to take another step forward. He's already a red zone monster with 8 TDs as a rookie, and as a rookie tight end, that's hugely impressive because of how low the translation is at that position. So I think if he takes another step forward and Keenan Allen is back, now I think Tyrell will still be the number 2 target there, but that is another 2 mouths to feed that weren't nearly as big there last year. And as much as I like Tyrell Williams, I think, Terrell Pryor has a clear shot at becoming that bona fide number 1 for Washington. Another guy you have Tyrell above Brandon Cooks, who I think could have an absolute monster season in New England with the big play threat and with Tom Brady. And it's not so much that I don't like Tyrell Williams as that I think you're kind of viewing him as if Keenan Allen isn't there. And if he's not there and Tyrell Williams is Phillip Rivers number 1 again, then I think 18 is too low for him. But if Keenan Allen does have, a miracle and stays on the field for 12, 13, 14 games, you know how he vacuums the targets. He had 3 14-catch games the last time he made it through 10. So we can't act like the volume is just going to be there again for Tyrell Williams that facilitated such a good season last year. That's my main concern with him. Not a talent standpoint, but I just see him moving down the target totem pole quite a bit this year.
We see this a little bit different in the aspect of so the quarterback that we kind of differ on, Matt Ryan, I see Phillip Rivers having that type of season and being able to – so when Matt Ryan has been able to support 3 different fantasy relevant at times when he had Roddy White, Julio Jones, and Tony Gonzalez, I think Phillip Rivers can support all 3 of those guys this year. And Keenan Allen, I'm totally on board with you. Keenan Allen he's my number 12 wide receiver. I think that this offense this season can pull either an older Falcons take and support 3 guys, or even if Hunter Henry doesn't take that next step, I think they could pull like what the Saints did last year and had 2 guys that were in the top 15 of wide receivers. That's where I put it at.
The only thing I'd be concerned about, though, is Anthony Lynn, the new head coach in calling the shots. The run-heaviest game scheme in all of last year. The Bills were the last in pass attempts last year. I know Tyrod Taylor and Phillip Rivers, 2 completely different talents. Lynn's already said, I have Phillip Rivers. I'm going to throw the ball. But he is a run-heavy-minded coach as a former running back himself, as a former running game coordinator. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the volume is going to be there. I love Rivers, and I think this offense is going to be a pretty explosive threat. I don't know if there's going to be that many pass attempts to go around to facilitate a wide receiver 12, a wide receiver 18, and a high-end tight end finish. I think that's asking a lot for one of the run-heaviest coordinators in the league.
Well, I'm giving you the last word there, Wolf, because we got to get into the no huddle. Unfortunately, you listen. I'll give you credit, Derek. You impressed me with what you got, but I got the impression, and you guys could go back and forth for another 20, 30 minutes.
I had something to fire back at too, man.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You did such a good job last time keeping it within the time frame. You got 30 seconds. Fire something back.
Okay. So with Anthony Lynn being the head coach this year, I think that was more on the Rex Ryan and how Rex Ryan wanted to run his team last year with the Bills and being run heavy, because that's how Rex has always run his teams. And so with Anthony Lynn stepping in, Kent Wisenhunt is still going to be the coordinator for the Chargers. I still think he pushes the buttons, and Lynn kind of defers to him a little bit, and they stay with the pass more. They're going to run the ball, don't get me wrong, but they're a pass-first team to me. And that's it. How many seconds had to get for that?
No, you were at like 25. That wasn't bad.
There you go.
We're going right into the no huddle offense right now.
hurry up, no huddles.
Let's fire these off here. This is rapid fire questions, no huddle offense. I'll go first. Derek, who should go number 1 overall in the fantasy draft?
David Johnson.
All right.
Number 2, you're going to give us your most undervalued QB, RB, wide receiver, and tight end. So all 4 positions, who's the most undervalued player?
Okay, so quarterback, it has to be Matt Stafford. 6 out of the last 7 seasons, he's finished as a quarterback 1, and he's going as 14 or 15 right now. My most undervalued running back has to be LeGarrette Blount, who is in a offense that wants to run the ball and take pressure off of Carson Wentz this year behind the number 1 offensive line per Pro Football Focus. Wide receiver is Golden Tate, and the juicy stat I'll throw out there super fast is 4 wide receivers in the last 3 years have finished with 90-plus receptions. Obviously, if I'm bringing this up with Golden Tate, he's one of them, but the other 3 are Antonio Brown, Demaryius Thomas, and Odell Beckham Jr., which to put Golden Tate in that type of crowd is amazing. The most undervalued tight end has to be Jack Doyle, man.
We love Jack Doyle here.
He's one of our big guys.
Doyle rules, man. Luck loves his tight ends in the red zone, and Jack Doyle is one of those guys that could have 10-plus touchdowns this year that you get super late in drafts.
All right, same question, but we're going overvalued. Give me your most overvalued quarterback.
Most overvalued quarterback, I'm stuck between Jameis Winston, the turnover machine himself, and probably Matt Ryan, because I think that he's just not going to pay off with the top 5 value that people are drafting him at. Right. Running back probably has to be Mark Ingram, only because I think for some reason, whatever it is, and being a Saints fan, that Sean Payton hates Mark Ingram. Because if not, why would he have brought in Adrian Peterson, and why would they have drafted Alvin Kamara? It's going to be a messy backfield, and going at number 20 as far as running backs go, I just don't see Mark Ingram paying off that price. Wide receivers, I already kind of alluded to it. The 2 that I cannot stand for their price, and they're so going to lose people their entire leagues this year, are Allen Robinson and DeAndre Hopkins. From a talent standpoint, the guy that is going to be overdrafted, because, I mean, it's already started, man. We haven't even put on pads, and they haven't even started hitting more than once a day, full on, is Jordan Reed. He's going top 5 tight end for everybody, and it is not a talent standpoint because the guy can catch the ball, stretch the seam. If he was ever healthy, he would be up there with Gronk, but he's not. He's just not, whether it is joints, muscles, whatever. He's just never going to pay off that price.
Alrighty, what early round draft pick, rounds 1 through 3, is going to ruin fantasy seasons? You kind of alluded at this one already, but which one of those early round picks is going to ruin fantasy seasons?
The one that is probably going to ruin fantasy seasons, rounds 1 through 3, because I didn't think he was actually going to make it up this high, but everybody wants the carry total and the workload, is Leonard Fournette. I'm super afraid. I love the guy. I love his talent. He is a great running back, but my concerns is that we're getting set up for a possible Todd Gurley of last year situation. He's going to get a ton of carries, but we already saw Albert go out, and Bortles is a garbage, total dumpster on fire of a quarterback, and he's not going to draw the coverage away from it. So Coughlin, yeah, he can run it 20 times a game. He's just going to keep running straight into the offensive line. I almost went McCaffrey on this one, but he's not being drafted in the first 3 rounds unless he gets that high, and it's not a talent standpoint with that dude either. All these running backs this year, I hate where they landed. I hate it.
Yeah, we feel the same way about Dalvin Cook, kind of. Although I guess his stock's going up a little bit. Well, give me a mid-round pick that's going to win people titles.
I'm stuck between 3 wide receivers that are going to win people titles. It's either Golden Tate, Larry Fitzgerald, the guy who catches 100 balls every single year. He's caught him for the last 2 years, and nobody gives him any kind of press for it. Or my super sleeper guy, who is he's Jarvis Landry with more touchdowns, and that's Jamison Crowder, who's going off. He's going off. I mean, that's a guy who's going to possibly catch 100 balls this year, and the difference between him and Landry is that he's a better red zone guy. He's a great route runner, and that's how he makes his mark in the red zone. He could have anywhere between 7 and 9 touchdowns this year.
We call them penny stocks. Most call them late round lottery tickets. Give us the one or two you need to have this year.
The 2 or 3, well, one or two. I could talk football all day, guys.
We could too.
Oh, man. So the one that is never going to get any love, and part of this is name value, is Kenny Britt. He's the wide receiver 1 for the Cleveland Browns. We saw in that offense last season that Terrell Pryor put up amazing numbers, and Kenny Britt can do it the same. Britt did it last year. The only reason that nobody gives him any kind of love for it is that he missed the last 2 games of last season, hurt with a shoulder injury. So if you look at end of the season rankings, he's not going to be up on those top lists. But weeks 1 through 15, he was number 16 and number 17 the ranked wide receiver. The other guy who is going undrafted is Cooper Kupp. Somebody's got to get targets for the Rams. This kid is super talented, and he's going to be a target vacuum this year.
I love Cooper Kupp. With you
nice. There. All right, the single most important move fantasy owners can make in 2017 that will win them a title is
draft Phillip Rivers. Every single league. He's a top 5 quarterback for me. The guy is going to be close. He's going to be the Matt Ryan of this year. You heard it.
All right.
All righty. Well, I don't know if that counts, but let's wrap up with your boldest prediction.
Oh.
and then just
you might have blown your load there, like a question too early.
Yeah, sorry, prematurely.
So
like
we'll
a
wrap
high
up with
school
your
boy
boldest
on a
prediction.
prom night here.
What's that? Sorry.
He's like a high school boy on prom night, he said.
So give us your boldest prediction. You've already given us that one. If you have a second one and ready in the holster, who knows if you can load back up for us.
All right. I'll give you a quickie. Jameis Winston is going to possibly finish outside the top 15 this year.
All righty. And give us a quick reminder, where can people find to interact with you?
So you can find me on Twitter. I'm on there all day, every day. I mean, maybe I'm just living the 24/7 moniker, man. Hey, I'm on Twitter a lot of the times. I'm always engaging in people answering questions, trades, whatever, at Debro_FFB. Message me, hit me up all the time.
All right.
Fantastic.
Derek Brown, Fantasy Football 24/7. Thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely, man.
Well, I'm packing up my game and I'ma head out west.